meditation is like anything. It involves skills acquisition, and as such, this kind of unfolds in stages. Now, if you're a beginning meditator and you don't have a meditation practice, then the goal of stage one is actually just starting to practice. It's as simple as that. And the skills that you develop are sort of the other side of the coin of the obstacles. An obstacle to starting a practice would be procrastination and lack of motivation. And so the skills that you develop involve pushing through that procrastination and setting very strong conscious intentions that actually get you on the cushion day after day. Now, what does mastery of stage one look like? Mastery of stage one is very simply, not that you're a good meditator. You can sit on a cushion with your mind wandering the whole time and still have mastered stage one. Stage one is all about getting your tush on the cush.
Get your tush on the cush.
That's what it is. And so if you set the strong intention to practice diligently, and what that means is, come up with a schedule. Usually that works for people. Set a time, 10 minutes that you're gonna practice, and that when you sit on the cushion and you are practicing, you're doing your best. It doesn't mean that your mind won't wander, because it will at the beginning. An untrained mind always wanders, so yours is going to wander too. But the fact that you're sitting there, you're trying to do your best, and you sit for the whole time that you said you were going to sit for. If you do that and don't miss days, let's say you go weeks without missing a day, you have mastered stage one. And I just want you to know that that's how it was for me when I got started too. There was a reason I wanted to start meditating. I had some major stresses in my life, and at certain things happened in my life where I knew that my healing and the change that I wanted wasn't going to come in the form of a pill, and it wasn't going to come because I talked to another person. It was going to come as a result of me going inside and confronting my own mind, working with my own impulses and patterns. And so I got a meditation program. Well, first I got a book, and then I got I was inspired after reading that book, and there was an advertisement for a guided meditation program at the end of the book, and I sent away, and I got the CDs, and I started listening to them, and this whole program came in 6 2-month modules, and so I ended up going through all 6. I meditated for a year, listening to those meditations, and at the end of the year, because of my continuing to study, I didn't just stop with one book, I kept going. And my diligence with the practice, I knew how to meditate. I was not a skilled meditator at the end of the year, but I was more than just a beginner. I didn't need to listen to guided meditations anymore. I could just sit on a cushion, and I knew the internal landscape of my mind and what was the goal of sort of where I was at. And so that's how it unfolds. And it's continued. It's 18, 19 years later. Wow. And I still have goals. I'm a reasonably adept meditator now, but like I said, it all unfolds in stages, and they're at the upper stages. There's a few more stages I'm working through, and so my goals and obstacles and the skills I'm developing at the higher stages are different, but it's still the same kind of a thing. I'm working on something too. And that's what keeps the whole process interesting. It's not just the same thing for years. You know, you actually do acquire these skills and reach these milestones. Like, you know, that you can start to do things that you've never been able to do before and see things you've never been able to see.
So you go through different levels.
You do.
As you, okay, got it.
See, yeah, like just for example, okay, so the first 3 stages, and I'm not going to get into particulars, but I'll talk about the first milestone. The first 3 stages are the stages of a beginner, and you transition from being a beginner to being a reasonably skilled meditator when you can hold your attention still without it wandering away. Let's say your meditation object is the breath at the tip of your nose, and you set the intention to follow the breath for 20 minutes. And your attention doesn't wander away from the breath for 20 minutes. You're a skilled meditator, a reasonably skilled meditator. You're not a beginner anymore, because an untrained mind can't do that. No untrained mind can do that. Your attention will wander away until you train it how not to. And that's a milestone, and it feels fantastic when you can do that, you know. And then, like I said, and this is kind of that gets into the retreat that we're doing at the TCMC. You start to understand how training your mind has tangible effects in your life, where in your relationships you are just so much more present. You're way more present with yourself. You start to sense thoughts coming before you say something unskillful. It's like you are starting to wake up to patterns that used to run your life. Now you're getting ahead of it, and that's kind of a theme that we talk about. Like, get ahead of it. Mm-hmm. This is what meditation and mindfulness is all about, is getting ahead of those patterns that keep you stuck. So anyway, that's a sort of a beginning introduction, and then let's talk about.
Oh, can I interrupt real quick?
Sure, absolutely.
So just so you guys know, don't feel bad. I'm brand new meditator. He's 18 or 19 years. So let's bring on your questions, you know?
Oh, yeah.
This is one of the greatest things we can do here. Just some specific question that you think might even be too small to ask, please ask. Like, when should I meditate? What should I just even break it down to what's challenging your practice? And please shoot us a question right there in the comments. I've been lucky enough to be able to ask Mark a lot of questions. It's been super helpful. Again, 5 months here. My mind's wandering like crazy still, but I am seeing the effects of my day-to-day.
Yeah.
I am seeing I can get it in front of it.
Mm-hmm.
And when situations arise that could have been quite triggering or a little bit crazy, I can calmly figure it out, at least somewhat calmly. So yeah. I'm seeing the benefits, but please fire away your questions. We're happy to answer them. And just wanted to note that before you went on.
Super.
But
okay,
yeah, this is why we're here. And
also
the free PDF, meditation kit, and booklet, just comment PDF, and we'll make sure you get that. Yeah.
Okay. So then the other thing that is really helpful when you start a practice is to have an overall sense of how to set up the balance in your mind, working with your consciousness. So there's 2 aspects of consciousness. One aspect is attention, and the other aspect is awareness. Attention is very much like a flashlight of consciousness. It shines on an object. It highlights the object. When you pay attention to something, presumably like you're paying attention to me now, you're able to focus in on details. You can engage with that object. And oftentimes when you're paying attention to something, you can lose your awareness, like big picture, what's going on around you. So that's something to know about attention. Attention can focus in, and you can kind of lose yourself in your attention. There's a strong sense of a self, like a really strong, whenever a person's really emotional or mad at somebody else, there's a very strong sense of self attached to the attention. Okay, so attention will fixate you onto certain topics or objects, all right? So it's something to be aware about attention and working with it. Awareness is different. Awareness isn't like a beam of consciousness that's directed at something. Awareness is more like the light in this room, where it's all distributed. It goes in all the directions. And so awareness is not interested in details, but it's interested in sort of the overall context. And oftentimes awareness is just monitoring things in the background. So you can be paying attention to me, but you're aware, if somebody calls you from the room next door, in other part of the house, you're tuned in enough to what's happening here and all around you. And so that balance, where there's a local attention and there's a global awareness, when you really perfect that, that's what you want to do when you start to meditate. And so let's say because we are going to practice at the end, and here's what we're going to do. We're going to set the intention to pay attention to sensations of breath at the tip of our nose. That's the classic meditation object. But at the same time, we're not going to forget what we're doing, the context. We're meditating. And so if you focus just on breath and you're completely unaware of, like, I'm just going to focus on the breath, you will forget the breath so fast, it'll surprise you, because there's nothing watching. Your awareness is not watching your attention. Awareness is aware of what's going on here. Okay, noticing thoughts coming and going, and you notice thoughts in awareness without getting caught. Okay, it's when your awareness dims and you lose a sense of the context, the bigger picture, that's when you're gone. Okay, mm-hmm. And so that's the balance that beginners learn to strike. So perfect balance between attention and awareness. Okay?
So Charles has a question. Charles says, what are some common misconceptions about meditation and what it's like? I find that frustrations and exceptions are a big thing that keep people from sticking with it or seeing the true benefits.
Yeah. So the one thing to know about meditation, so I'll do air quotes, right? So meditation is a word that encompasses a lot of different types of activities. And in the meditation that I'm talking about right now is in a particular family of meditation. It's mindfulness meditation. I'll explain mindfulness meditation, but let me talk about the other family of meditation that most people are aware of. That family is called the Constructive family. And basically what the Constructive family is when you use your imagination to construct either a feeling state like loving kindness, or an imaginary scene in your mind, like when you go to yoga and let's say you finished yoga and it's Shavasana time, and the yoga teacher says, okay, I want you to go to your happy place. That's and he or she leads you on a little journey in your mind. That's a constructive practice. Now, constructive practices are very powerful because the brain doesn't know the difference between what's actually happening and the imagination. And so if you do construct a strong feeling of loving kindness in your heart by imagining someone you really love and spreading that love and filling yourself with love, you actually rewire your brain quite powerfully to feel more love and compassion in your life. It's a powerful source of amplifying the goodness in your life. But the opposite is also true. If you want to really consider what is depression, what is anxiety, these are fixated states where a person is stuck in their head cycling on some story of loss or some story of threat, and they're amplifying, using their imagination to amplify that narrative in such a way they construct feeling states. And just like with loving kindness meditation, you change your brain and the chemicals, and it gets worse over time. So constructive practice is very powerful, but you need to know, and this is where the sort of the context and the awareness from mindfulness, you need to know what you're amplifying. If you're amplifying the positive, fantastic. Amplify the goodness. But if you're amplifying the negative, you need to put a saddle on that horse.
Like while you're meditating, amplifying the negative.
Even because that can happen too. Mm-hmm. That happens when you're sitting trying to do mindfulness meditation, but the teacher didn't teach you well enough about keeping the awareness, and you get. And let's say you're meditating because you get anxiety and you heard it's good for you. Well, your brain has the habit of going down the rabbit hole of that threat story. And so here you are meditating and you're concentrating your mind and your attention, and then there's no awareness of when you get hooked by story of threat, and then amplify, and then you freak yourself out. So that happens. And so you gotta get a good teacher. You gotta maintain some awareness. And so this practice that I'm teaching, mindfulness meditation, is in the deconstructive family. So you take your experience apart. And what does that mean is seeing your attention as one aspect of your experience, seeing your awareness as another aspect of your experience, knowing that thoughts are coming and going, sensations are coming and going, and seeing all of this as if you took the parts apart in your mind. That process, if you want to know what that amplifies, amplifies your executive functions, your capacity to think rationally, to see clearly, to maintain discipline and increase your tolerance for distress. Like all kinds of crazy, amazing, positive things happen. You get smarter. So it's, amazing. You can get past addictions. Amazing things can happen, but you got to do it right.
Mm-hmm. So you need a good teacher. So Charles, I hope that answers your question. One thing might be, if you don't have that teacher and you jump in, that's when you might be like, this isn't working for me.
Yeah,
this isn't happening.
For sure.
And that totally might cause you to just, this isn't working. I'm going to quit. It's, it's like anything. So you have to really invest in that.
So this reminds me that, and this goes back to your question, Charles. So a lot of people say, I can't meditate. It's too frustrating, because they don't actually realize in the beginning, what's the process. So the process looks like this. There's 5 steps in the process when you meditate in the beginning. Number 1, you set a conscious intention. We talked about that already. Set an intention to pay attention to the sensations at the tip of your nose and try to limit the time that your mind wanders. That's your intention. Mm-hmm. Number 2, what's going to happen to beginners is you're going to forget. And that just means that you'll lose awareness, your attention will get hooked by some thought or sensation, and off you'll go. The next thing is that your mind will wander for some indeterminate amount of time. You won't really know until the 4th aspect happens, then you'll remember all of a sudden, because you set the intention in the beginning, you remember once your mind is wandering. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm not meditating anymore. You still are. It's just that you caught yourself. That's a key moment in the process of a beginner, where some beginners can say, oh, dang, I can't do this. For the meditator that knows about these 5 aspects of beginning practice, you realize you just actually did what you wanted to do, which is remember. That's what you wanted. So you remember, and then you replace your attention on your meditation object. So it's those 5 aspects.
So we had one other question. What is the difference between meditation and mindfulness?
Well, mindfulness is a type of meditation, but you can be mindful in daily life. And what mindfulness in daily life is that you're consciously aware of what you're paying attention to, and you're also you know what you're paying attention to. So you have a local attention, and you have a conscious awareness. Your awareness is global. You're awake to the context of what's going on. You're monitoring and modifying thoughts and sensations, impulses, give and take in a relationship, all of that with a wish for the highest good. That's sort of mindfulness right there. Mindful attunement.
Great. Okay, so we have a nice overview now. Do you want to get into deeper what meditation looks like? Or where do you want to go?
Yeah, let's do that. Let me go sit on my cushion, and then you can point the camera over there, and we'll see if everybody can hear me, and I'll just guide a really simple practice, and then we'll wrap it up.
Awesome.
Okay, let's do that.
So we're gonna head over here. And yeah, feel free to keep asking questions. We'll answer all the questions. Even if we don't get to them tonight, we will get to them later on tonight or tomorrow. And thank you all for being here, of course. So here's Mark on his cushion, so we'll take it away, Mark. I'll get out of the screen here.
Okay. All right. Okay. Can everybody hear me well enough? I hope so. All right. So when I sit down to practice, I'm always aware of my posture, and I'm sitting out really quick. I'll show you. I'm sitting on a meditation cushion. It has buckwheat inside. I like these sort of meditation cubes because they conform to your bottom, super comfortable. And so what happens is notice that I'm kind of sitting on the front edge of this, and it tips me forward a little bit. So then with my pelvis kind of tipped forward, the weight is on my shins, and I'm very stable. Like, I don't have to expend any physical energy to just sit absolutely perfectly still. Like, my core doesn't need to remain engaged. I can just sit very relaxed in this position. Now, my spine is relatively straight. It's not rigid, but it's straight. My head also, if there's sort of a plumb line between the top of my head and all the way down to my sacrum, there's a straight line. My chin is relatively level. This is kind of the accelerator of your mind, the level of your chin. If you're tired, you'll want to lift your chin up a little bit. If your mind is racing too much, you'll want to dip your chin just a little bit, okay? So, but normally just chin level. With your arms, you're going to want your arms, especially if you live in a hot area, you want a little bit of space between your upper arms and your body, otherwise you'll start sweating. And now you can put your hands, fold sort of, I put my right hand inside the palm of my left hand and just fold them and hold them in my lap like this. Or you can do the same where right hand in palm of left and then touch your thumbs. Now that is called a cosmic mudra. It's a crazy name for a really practical, it's kind of like a biofeedback device, because oftentimes when you meditate, your mind, you get sleepy, and what you'll discover if your hands are in this mudra position and your thumbs start to come apart like that, that'll key you into noticing that your mind is sinking. So I still work with dullness occasionally if I didn't get a good night's sleep. And so on those days where my mind is, maybe I'm going to have some dullness, I put my thumbs together, but mostly I just put them together in my lap like this. Okay. Now, for beginners, I suggest just closing your eyes, and you can also sit in a chair. So if you're sitting in a chair in front of the computer, just close your eyes and listen to me right now, okay, with back straight. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is, even before we start meditating, is just think about anything that might distract you. This is one thing I do before every single meditation, is I kind of list what might be the distractions du jour, and I alert myself ahead of time that if any of those things comes up, I set it immediately aside. So do that for yourself right now, very quickly. Think of anything that might distract you that has been on your mind today, and set the intention that if any of those things come up, that you'll just set it aside. Now, let's set an intention to pay attention to the breath and try to limit the time our mind wanders. But we're going to get to the breath in 4 stages. The first thing I want you to do is close your eyes and be aware of the whole space of the room that you're in. Use your ears and your body to sense the whole space. Very expansive. What you're doing is you're setting up your peripheral awareness right now. Let it be as open as possible. Really use your ears to reach into the room. Use your body to feel into the room. And now bring your awareness down to just the sensations of your body. All the sensations that you feel in your body, from the tips of your toes to the top of your head. Collapse down to really focus on that. So you're still aware of the room, but you're paying attention now to your whole body. Like the sensations of your body are highlighted. And now narrow the focus of your attention one more time to globally all the sensations of breath. So in your belly, in your chest, in your throat, in your nose. Highlight sensations of breath. And then bring it down one more time just to the tip of your nose. So try to do this. Try to focus your attention on the sensations at the nose while staying aware of everything else in the room. Just lightly aware. Attention is on sensations of breath, but your awareness is open. That's really the critical skill that you'll cultivate throughout your meditation practice. And so as long as you're trying to hold your attention on the breath at your nose and you're staying aware, you're meditating. If you forget, your mind wanders, then you remember and replace, that's meditating. So I'm going to be quiet for 2 minutes, okay? Just enjoy, give yourself this gift. Local attention and global awareness. Okay, let's do this together.
Okay. All right.